Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another video. Today I'm making this film to talk about Ben Nevis, the highest mountain in the British Isles, 1,345 meters above sea level. If you want to climb higher, you need to go north, 400 miles to be exact, until you reach the western flanks of Norway, and then you've got some cold, snowy Scandinavian mountains and you're all good. So we're not talking about that, we're talking about Ben Nevis. How can we best prepare to look after ourselves on that summit, or on that climb, and to reach the summit and get back down nice and safely, okay? So I'm going to be talking about clothing, I'm going to be talking about what to put in our pack, I'm going to be talking about mindset, I'm going to talk about planning, I'm going to talk about weather. In fact, let's just get started about what I'm talking about. So, we know we want to climb Ben Nevis. Whether we're doing that as a personal challenge, whether we're doing that as something for charity, or as part of the Three Peaks Challenge where you do Snowdon, Scafell Pike and Ben Nevis in 24 hours. So whatever your reason for climbing, okay, let's get you to the top and back down nice and safely. Clothing. We need clothes, believe it or not. So the idea of our clothing when we're climbing the mountain is to adopt a layering system, okay? So whether you're athletic at all at the moment, whether you're active even at the moment, you're probably going to be using the layering system. So some of you guys might be very familiar with this. If you're not, let's have a chat about it. So first things first. The idea of this is essentially so that if you get cold, you can put more layers on, and if you get hot, you can take layers off, okay? So the first thing we want to avoid is cotton. So cotton is great for day-to-day stuff, but most of us will know we're in a hot, stinky office, we get sweaty and our shirt stays wet. Cotton is not good when we're in the mountains, when we're out and about, because it stays wet. If we sweat, it's going to stay wet. If the environment around us is wet, it's going to stay damp, okay? This is dangerous because as you climb the mountain, it's going to get colder. The higher you get, the colder it's going to get. If there's any wind blowing, even a gentle breeze, you're going to feel that. All the warmth from your body is going to get whisked away by the wind and you're going to get cold, okay? There is a very real risk of the mountain, whatever the time of year that you're climbing, of getting hypothermia if you do not stay warm and if you do not look after your body. So avoiding cotton is step number one to keeping you safe. So that goes for jeans and cotton trousers and cotton tops as well, okay? So what do we wear, Abby? Well, you want to go down the synthetic route. So the idea of these synthetic fabrics is they're light, they dry very quickly, and they take the moisture away from your skin and evaporate it out into the environment, okay? And that just means we're going to be nice and protected if the wind comes in. Yeah, we might be feeling cold and put some layers on, we'll talk about that, but it just means it's not going to stay damp and it's going to help to keep our core body temperature regulated. So that's our base layer, that's the layer against our skin. Next up, we want to be thinking about our mid layers. So these are the layers that are going to insulate us. So right now I have this green synthetic jacket on, so it's filled with synthetic fabric, it's nice and warm, and synthetic, if it gets wet, is going to hold the heat. If you're wearing down, down's perfectly fine, but if it gets wet, it's going to lose that heat, okay? So that's the little pros cons between that. So other things you might want to pack, okay, because having multiple layers is really, really important, so you can put more layers on and take them off as you need, okay? You might want to take a lightweight fleece. So something like this, perfect, so I can just bung that on underneath this if I need to, and again that's just going to add some insulation. This is very insulating as well, actually. You might want to take a soft shell or a windproof, so again something that's going to add some insulation. So what's great about all of these is I've tried and tested it, okay, I've used them in the hills, and I know that I can put this one on and then this one on and then this one on, so I can have all of those on if I need to. Now you might feel as you're going up the mountain, flip, I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I don't need these layers that I'm carrying. But once you reach the top and you start coming down, your body's not going to be generating the same amount of heat as it does going up. You may feel the cold. Have these layers, and even if you don't need them, somebody else might need them, okay? So just making sure you've got plenty of insulating layers. It's better to have them and not need them than to need them and not have them, okay? So the next layer after that is your shell layer, so basically your waterproofs. So if it's drizzly or raining, or if the cloud's in, which is very likely to, I've heard the figure that apparently only 4 days of the year there is a clear summit throughout the day on Ben Nevis. Whether that's true or not, I don't actually know, but just making sure you've got some waterproofs, again, super important. Even if all you do is use it to sit on to have some lunch, okay? Having some waterproofs, so that's a waterproof top and as well waterproof trousers, okay? So I've climbed Ben Nevis 3 times in very different conditions, but all of them within the main climbing season. So as I say, 100,000 people plus climb Ben Nevis each year. You're not going to be on your own, and this video is obviously aimed at people who are not climbing in the winter season. So within the winter, there's going to be a lot of snow about. You're going to ice axes, crampons. It's a very different situation. This is for people going up the main mountain track and coming back down, okay? This is still stuff that you need, because even if you're climbing in the peak summer season, there's potentially still going to be snow about, and it's still potentially going to be very windy and very cold at the top. So please make sure you're prepared. So the next thing you might have in your bag actually is, yes, so we're talking about clothing, aren't we? So hat, fingers, feet, okay? There are other areas that we can lose heat. So head, or head even. So you might want to use a buff, so basically a neck gaiter, so this will go around your neck and you can pull it up and protect yourself if it does get windy, if you do get cold. Just having something like a buff can be really helpful. Of course, gloves, so having a thicker pair of gloves. I've got varying gloves here. This is just what I carry all the time anyway. So these are actually waterproof gloves, or water resistant, so if it was raining I can keep my hands protected, and usually these are my spare pair of gloves, so if these get wet and these get wet then I can put these on, because don't forget, when things get wet you tend to get cold, so just making sure you've got a few spares of things that can be really helpful. And then of course a hat. We all like a good hat. Plop that on your head, that's going to keep you warm. So just making sure you've got those bare essentials going at the mountain. Make sure it's stuff you've tried and used before, you're familiar with your layering system. Of course, you're probably going to be training if you're looking to go and do Ben Nevis if you've not done anything like this before. So use this kit when you're out on the trail, and that's going to help make sure you know how to use it when you're actually on the bend. So what else have I got in here? So I have some walking sticks. So walking sticks are fantastic. There's a bit of a trend with these at the moment. A lot of people are like, I don't need walking sticks, I'm too hardcore for that. But actually, if you know how to use your walking sticks well, okay, these can really help to enhance your form. So your core's engaged, you've got your back on properly, okay. They're going to take a lot of pressure off your knees, so you might not need them going up, but certainly coming down they can be very beneficial. They can help with stability, and just generally walking sticks are pretty cool. They're really light these days as well. You can get them really light quite cheaply, so just getting a good pair of walking sticks can be really helpful. And again, just making sure you know how to use them. Then having first aid kits. This is my personal first aid kit, so if you're walking on your own, make sure you've got your own first aid kit. If you're walking as a party, make sure you've got 1 or 2 first aid kits scattered around, and make sure the people in the party know where the first aid kit is, okay, if you need it, which hopefully you won't. Make sure everything in that first aid kit you know how to use as well. So you may have a designated first aider in your group, but if they need first aid, who's going to help them? So just making sure you guys all have a basic understanding of the first aid kit. I mean, you may think this is over preparing, we're just going up and down. I mean, what, it takes 6 to 8 hours for most people, but it's best to be prepared, and that's going to keep everybody safe. Okay, so having a first aid kit, know how to use it. Now another thing to think about is, there goes my flask, is emergencies, okay? So hopefully you're not going to have an emergency, but how can we best prepare so that if we do have an emergency, that we can address it and we can all come out as fine as possible. So first things first is basically to leave an itinerary with somebody, so people know, okay, you're going up Ben Nevis, when are you expected back? It can be quite nice to meet them at the car park, have a little celebration, okay? Then as well, having a list of emergency contacts on you. If your phone happens to die for whatever reason, perhaps you fall and you crush your phone, then you can go to somebody on the mountain and be like, excuse me, can I use your phone? I need to contact somebody, okay? So having your emergency contacts on you can be really helpful. And then knowing how to contact the emergency services. So if you're on a mountain, you're going to need the mountain rescue. Best way to do that is ring 999 here in the UK, ask for police, and then they will take you through to the mountain rescue when you explain your situation and say, I need the mountain rescue, because it's the police that coordinate all of that, okay? So another thing to think about as well, final thing for emergencies, is basically, if you do find yourself stuck on the mountain, you're going to need your layers. You're going to want to try and keep yourself off the floor here. But something that can be really helpful to carry is basically a foil survival bag, or something like this. This is a blizzard bag, or even a survival shelter. So if you're climbing as a party, so maybe there's 4 to 8 of you, carrying a survival shelter could be fantastic. Not just because you might need it in an emergency, but if you reach the top and it is blowing a hoolie and it's really cold but you want to eat, everybody can get in that emergency shelter. You sort of sit on it, and basically it's this little cocoon, and you're protected from the wind, and actually they get warm very, very quickly because they keep you off the ground. Everybody's body heat's in there. Emergency shelters can be great, and it can be so fun to sit on top of a mountain and know that you're relatively safe in that shelter. You can eat, and then you can come back out into the elements and go back down that mountain having had a boost of morale. So emergency shelters are certainly something to think about. Not unnecessary, but quite necessary if you want to have a good time on the mountain. So that's basically all of that stuff I wanted to talk about. So other things you might want to take, just standard stuff that you take on any day hike, things like a head torch, things like tissues, and then of course navigation devices. So yes, you may just be going up and down the main mountain track, but the likelihood of you in the event of you having an incident, you're going to need to be able to tell the emergency services where you are. So having a map and knowing where you are on that map, so you can get a grid reference, or a GPS. I know even phones can do it these days, but having a map and a compass can be really helpful. Also, because if you do reach the summit and the cloud is very, very thick, yes, there are cans, and yes, you can fit 2 football pitches on the summit of Ben Nevis. you could still very easily wander off the edge of that mountain, because if the cloud is in and you don't know where the actual summit is, it can be very, very dangerous. So having a compass, there is a compass in this pack, having a compass, having a map, very helpful. Make sure you know how to use them, okay? So some other things you're going to want to be packing as well, basically all standard day hiking stuff, is food and water. So making sure you stay hydrated on the trail, so having a couple of flasks, a couple of litres on you, drinking that nice and steady as you go, try not to glug it, just pace it, little sips as you go. You might want a Camelback in your bag, so that's basically a water bladder and you've got a pipe and you can sip out of it. And then the thing that's rolled away, here we go, ta-da, is a flask. Again, can't reinforce enough, it's possibly going to be very cold at the top, so having a nice warm drink can be really helpful just to keep your morale up, keep your body temperature up. Just sipping on that as you go can be great as well. And then with regards to food, just having some nice high calorie, decent nutrition, things like bananas, so nice quick access, sugar, it's going to give you a bit of a sugar kick nice and quickly, some nice cereal bars, some trail mix, basically just good healthy fats, proteins and carbohydrates, just keeping your body fueled, eating little and often as you climb the mountain can be really great. So I think that's everything I wanted to talk about actually having on our person. So we know what we want to take with us, but where are we going? Okay, so the best place to start is at the Glen Nevis Centre, the Glen Nevis Centre. So basically it's £3 to park for a day. There is limited parking there, so just getting there nice and early, starting your day nice and early, again give yourself a good climbing window can be really helpful. But if you're staying in the area, the nearest settlement is Fort William. So if you're staying in Fort William, then stay there and then drive out. You might be camping. If you're camping, there's the Glen Nevis campsite and youth hostel pretty much next to the Glen Nevis Centre, so all at the base of the mountain, and those tend to be the places where people start their hike from. So happy days. We have parked. The next thing I would recommend you do, in fact even building up to that, is check the weather. So generally the best weather forecast is the one that's happening around us, but we can schedule our hike based upon what the weather's doing. So the way to check the weather on Ben Nevis, okay, is to, you can either look at the Met Office and just check the general weather graphs and see what's going on, but then I would recommend taking it a step up and check MWIS, so the Mountain Weather Information System. So that'll give you a nice detailed breakdown of the cloud base, so the lowest point the cloud is going to reach on the mountains, the percentage likelihood of there being a clear summit, the strength of the wind possibly on the top, and all sorts of different things. So definitely checking MWIS, because you don't want to be going up that mountain if you know there's going to be 60-mile-an-hour winds on the top, probably 10% visibility chance. Like, if you're used to that, then go for it, but if it's going to present a dangerous situation for you, then there is no shame in saying you can come back another day, because that mountain is not going anywhere, and we'll get back onto that in a minute. That's mindset and resilience, and we'll come to that in a second, okay? And then the final way to check the weather is literally the Ben Nevis Mountain weather forecast. There's actually a forecast for Ben Nevis, again, because it's such a popular route. Ben Nevis actually has an immensely complete weather forecasting history, because there's been an observatory on the top since the 1800s. It's not there now, but it's a very complete set of information. The forecasting is really quite accurate, so just checking the Ben Nevis weather forecast as well. So the weather, we know we're happy to climb, we've got all our gear, we're parked up, we paid our £3, we're on the trail, let's go, this is great. So I would just encourage you as you go, okay, you might have some adrenaline pumping, you might be nervous, you might be excited, to pace yourself, okay? And what I mean by that is, is if you're talking with somebody, you can have that conversation and you're not out of breath. So going at a nice steady pace that you can have that conversation, basically it's like the breath test, the talk test, I can't even talk right now. That's going to help sort of maintain a nice steady pace. There is no rush, okay, especially if you started nice and early. So pace yourself, taking nice steady drinks as you go, eating little bits as you go, just looking after your body. If you get any hot spots on your feet, then making sure you address those. So basically that's the beginning of a blister. If you're interested in foot care, there's a link up there right now. And I just realized I didn't talk about feet, I meant to talk about boots. So you can climb the mountain in trainers, but I would not recommend it, okay? Since we're looking after our body in every other way, let's not neglect our feet, since those are carrying us up the mountains. So trying to wear a nice pair of hiking boots can be really efficient, because you get the support around your ankle, okay? You also get the grip through the sole, that is muddy, but also the protection, because yes, it's slabbed sort of halfway up, but the second half is shaly, it's scree, there are jagged rocks. That's going to help protect your feet from bruising. So having a nice pair of walking boots that you've already broken in, so again you will have used them on some hikes, you're comfortable in those boots, you've got a good pair of socks to go with them, really important stuff, okay? So you might want a slightly stiffer sole boot to go on the mountains. Like I tend to wear my mountain boots. They're slightly stiffer sole, but you don't have to. You could get away with just general summer hiking boots. Just wear something that's comfortable for you and that you have experience in the mountains in, ideally. Okay, so anyway, coming back to on the mountain, we're on the mountain, so we're hiking up. Just make sure you appreciate the things around you as well. Give yourself permission to be like, wow, I am on Ben Nevis. I am tackling the highest mountain in the British Isles. Even if this is the sort of thing you do in your sleep, it's so important that we take time to appreciate the present moment around us. So take in the path that you're walking on, the fact that that's been constructed by volunteers. And actually, before I carry on, here's Nathan talking about the path and the creation and maintenance of the path on Ben Nevis. So we are taking our first steps on the slopes of Ben Nevis. How are you feeling?
Feeling good. Good hiking conditions, not too warm.
That's it.
Yeah.
Just right. So this path is really well made. Can you tell us anything about it?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. It's because the John Muir Trust only really own everything above 700 metres on Ben Nevis.
Okay.
So the majority of the path isn't actually managed by the John Muir Trust.
I see.
But we also own the feature that everybody wants to access,
Yeah.
and we want people to access it sustainably.
Yeah.
So to achieve that, we have to work in partnership with the other landowners and stakeholders in Glen Nevis.
Okay.
And that comes in the form of the Nevis Landscape Partnership as well. And through that, we have really good opportunities to apply for funding.
Yeah.
And about 5 years ago, they applied for the Heritage Lottery funding, landscape projects, and they managed to secure about £5 million for Glen Nevis. Yeah, it's really good.
Amazing.
And over the last 5 years, about £900,000 has been spent on the Ben Nevis path itself.
Gosh.
And part
That's why it's so well kept then.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that is through contractors' work.
Okay.
But other part of that is being able to enable local community members and volunteers to get involved
Yeah.
and do some work on the Ben
Okay.
path themselves.
So we're going to be grateful to a lot of different people that we've got this path in today.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, lower down the path, it's mostly volunteer work.
Yeah,
But
wow.
up in the nitty gritty, it's the contractor. That's where the cost really comes in,
Okay,
especially with the materials as well.
that's great. And so for anyone who might be interested in volunteering, how do they go about doing that?
There are several ways you can get involved.
Okay.
Probably for the Ben Nevis path, your best route would be through the Nevis Landscape Partnership.
Okay.
On their website, you can see a list of the opportunities. Failing that, you can come and volunteer with us at the John Muir Trust, and we'll do monthly footpath work parties on the Ben Nevis path and litter picks too.
Yeah.
And you can access that through our website as well.
Great. Okay then. Might just have to have a look at that myself. Okay, we're back. Happy days. So other things to sort of just take in are the flora species, the trees and the ecosystem around us, the wildlife that might be in the area. Just being grateful for the fact that we have views up the valley and we have this body that's going to carry us up the mountain. It's really great to sort of set ourselves free and carry ourselves up that mountains on a foundation of positivity, keeping at the forefront of your mind your reasons for taking on that mountain. So if you're climbing for a charity in memory of a loved one, like remembering those, but remembering the happy things, telling yourself you can, speaking positive things over yourself, super important. That's going to help build your mental resilience. That's going to increase the likelihood of you getting at the top. And I think it's very important as well in the run up to the climb, if this is something you are intimidated by, to be realistic. You can tell yourself this is going to be difficult, and actually giving yourself permission to take some of the pressure off. You're going to give everything you've got on that mountain, but if the weather comes in, if you're feeling tired, if you're hurting due to old injuries, if you in fact even have an injury on the mountain, then giving yourself permission to come back another day is super important. If you're putting too much pressure on yourself, you get to the top, do not forget the top is halfway. You have to get back down again, okay? And most people find coming down a lot harder than going up because they've reached the summit. You know, most mountains or injuries on the mountain happen as you come down because you mentally relax. So you need to remind yourself the expedition is to get up and down, okay? Just giving yourself permission, take some of that pressure off, take it steady, okay? And building a positive foundation, really important stuff as you're climbing that mountain. Just a few other little things to consider. Stopping as you need to, okay, because you're pacing. Making sure you're taking a litter home. Please don't leave rubbish on the mountain. If you want to be an absolute trail legend, you can pick up other people's litter as well. 100,000 people climbing that mountain. If everybody leaves a cereal bar wrapper, that's a lot of wrappers, okay? Banana skins, orange peels. If it doesn't grow up there, you don't leave it there, basically. And the only thing that's up there is stones. So unless you're carrying stones up, don't leave stuff. That's basically that. Leave no trace. Just take pictures and come into pictures. do take pictures. Give yourself permission to take pictures, to capture everything. Even if the mist is down, you can hardly see a thing. Take pictures of the path in the mist. Take pictures of each other. Have a bit of a laugh, okay? Because capturing that memory can be so good to look over, to give yourself a bit of a boost on a low day in the future. Telling yourself, look what I did. I climbed Ben Nevis. I went up in those conditions. Wow. Having those pictures to look over, really, really good stuff, okay? And basically the final thing I have to say is just have fun. And I've been alluding that to, at that a lot. Talk to people on the mountain. It's amazing. People come from all over the world to climb Ben Nevis, so talk to them. When I climbed twice earlier this summer, I talked to people from Australia, the Netherlands, Scotland, England, Wales, Germany, all over the place. It's so cool to talk to them and hear their motivations for climbing the mountain. So give yourself permission to chat to people, especially coming down. It can be quite nice, but encourage people as you're going up. Be that fun one on the mountain. Lift everybody's spirits, because it is a challenge, and recognizing that challenge is super important. And to be honest, I think that's most of the things I wanted to cover. So we talked about everything to take. We've talked about preparing with the weather and with training and with mindset. We talked about our layering system. We talked about having looking after ourselves on the mountain, emergency services, where to park. I suppose the final thing I could say is treat yourself afterwards. So there's the Ben Nevis Inn. It's very traditional that people go there for a drink or a meal afterwards. Ben Nevis Inn is a pretty cool place, a very historic building, lovely staff there. So maybe pop your head in there. But just look after yourself afterwards. Make sure you stretch, have a soak in the bath, look after your feet, and do pat yourself on the back. I think it's really important to recognise what you've just achieved. You've made it to the top and back down of the highest mountain in the British Isles. You are a legend. Well done. I cannot say that enough. Make sure you tell yourself well done, okay? So that's it from me, guys. I'm just going to finish with a final bit of a conversation from me and Nathan climbing the mountain. So he left me at the waterfall, the Redburn waterfall, and I carried on up in the drizzle and cold wind, but it was a good summit. So he's just got some final things, sort of recapping everything I had to say. That's the John Muir Trust. If you'd like to support what they do, just head on to their website. All the links are below in the description. But guys, I cannot thank you enough for watching. If you have anything else you'd like to know about, please pop it in the comments below. Let's keep it kind and compassionate. And guys, until then, stay wild. I almost forgot what I was going to say then. Stay wild. That's how we finish every video. I'll see you next time. So we are well and truly in the clouds now. It's getting a bit drizzly, a little damp, but we have matching coats, so all is well.
Yeah. It's definitely the style at the moment.
Yeah. So when it comes to climbing the mountain, obviously, I talk a lot in my videos about being prepared, but what does that mean when it comes to Ben Nevis?
Well, I think you've probably covered it quite a lot in your previous videos about what to wear: boots, waterproof, warm fleece. Some people are bringing an emergency shelter as well.
That's a good idea.
Plenty of food too, maybe a hot drink, plenty of water or a water bottle to fill up with that red burn that we just went past there.
That's good.
But one of the main things as well is pre-planning, getting to know the route beforehand as well. It's one of the main things about Leave No Trace is pre-planning as well, because if you pre-plan, you're prepared for the situation. 100%. You're not going to get in a situation where you're quite cold and wet and you maybe start to have an impact on the mountain. You maybe leave some litter and you're just not in the mindset to pick it back up if you want to get off the hill. So pre-planning is a massive thing. Part of that is making sure you're familiar with maps and compasses. The Ben path itself, as you can see, it's a really nice path.
Yeah,
it's pretty well easy to follow, but some people will say you don't need a map for this path in particular, but one of the big things is if you need to get rescued by the mountain rescue, you need to know where you are in the mountain and let them know where you are. So if you have a map and you're familiar with that, you can pinpoint where you are.
Take a good reference.
Exactly.
And how do you get hold of the mountain rescue?
That's a good question as well. Not a lot of people know the answer to that. So the best way to do it is call 999, ask for Police Scotland, and then ask for a mountain rescue, and then you'll be put onto the mountain rescue leader, and they'll instruct you on what's best to do at that point. On the plateau of Ben Nevis, there are a number of cairns. In 2007, a couple of years after the John Muir Trust took on the management of Ben Nevis, the whole plateau of Ben Nevis was covered in cairns. Now during the winter that was causing issues for navigating.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Because people were falling.
So what is a cairn for people that don't know what a cairn is?
Good question again. A cairn is, they're quite traditional. They've been around some cultures for thousands of years, and they can be used as waypoint markers. Some people use them as things to bury loved ones inside. So around Scotland you have coffin cairns. But on Ben Nevis we have piles of rocks that are neatly stacked, kind of like dry stone dikes. And they're used to navigate along the path during really low visible conditions like today. Even though it's not windy, even though it's not too cold, the visibility is pretty bad.
Yeah.
And it can be quite easy to get lost because the path slightly deteriorates at that point. But if you can see these cairns and follow them, you get to the summit successfully.
Should be okay. Yeah. That's all right then.
But in 2007, there used to be several dozen of these cairns.
Oh gosh.
And the volunteers of the John Muir Trust went up there and removed the unnecessary ones, and they got to work and consolidating the proper ones and making them really good for navigating.
Great.
Yeah, so they're really useful nowadays, particularly in winter when you're walking on the snow and they just poke over the top.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Well, I should be alright then if I carry on up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It will be chilly.
Yeah.
Right now it's about 3 or 4 degrees that we're sitting. Up there it's slightly windier.
Yeah.
Bear in mind the wind chill comes in as a factor at that point, and it'll feel like
does.
-2-ish.
Okay.
So I recommend
right
not hanging around
Put my
too long.
hat and gloves on then.
Yeah.
So obviously when you climb up, 100 meters or so, the temperature drops. Do you know roughly how much it drops by as you climb?
I don't know exactly, but I always remember my geography teacher teaching me for about every 100 meters it drops by about a degree roughly.
Yeah, okay. So you can definitely feel the difference as we're climbing up.
Oh, absolutely. As soon as you stop as well.
Yeah, definitely.
That's why it's so important to wear proper clothing, not cotton, because you get a thing called cotton death, where you get so wet that the cotton doesn't dry out as quickly as technical clothes would. So synthetic clothing is really good for somewhere like Ben Nevis if you want to take lots of rests, have some lunch and not get chilly as well.
Yeah.
Some people, what they do when they sit down is they put on layers as well, particularly here. When you're on the summit of Ben Nevis, you'll almost certainly have to put on layers.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I've got a few packed, so it should be all right. So I'm going to head on to the summit now, and Nathan's going to head down. He's going to get back for some work, unfortunately, back in the office. But this is my office today, so that works for me. But thank you so much for walking out with me this far.
Been great.
Yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah.
I've learnt a lot, and I hope
Cool.
you guys have too.